Hey everyone, welcome to Being with Cari. This is the mini podcast where I speak with previous guests of the Ultimate Coach podcast. Today's guest today is the one and only Mr. Kellan Fluckiger. How are you, Kellan?
I am just grateful to be here with you. And I really want to acknowledge you because doing a podcast is a labor of love. And it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of work, a lot of thinking, a lot of shouting into the unknown without knowing if you're making the kind of difference you want and if people are even understanding or hearing you. So I love it that you're doing it, and thank you.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. So you've been on the podcast before. You've been on my podcast before, and then you were on the Ultimate Coach podcast a couple of times. But today we were just kind of saying, let's come up with the topic ourselves. And I said, what do you want to speak on? And based upon some experiences that you had today and some conversations you had with your amazing wife, Joy, we came up with the topic of paying attention. So let's talk about that. Where do you want to take that? Feel free.
Well, I love the fact that we say paying attention, first of all, because when we go to the store, we pay for stuff in order to get something. And the value of our moments as we go through the day is directly proportional to how much we're willing to pay attention. If the moments go by and we don't pay attention, then we get nothing in return. And the degree to which we do pay attention is the degree to which we get value from each moment as it goes by. Now, there's a whole nother topic, which is what are we paying attention to and who are we being as we pay attention? But just the very initial fact of choosing to pay attention and using the word pay, that's how you get value from each moment and make the saying, living in the moment, mean something.
Interesting. I think it's wild how there's so many words that we use on a daily basis that have multiple meanings to them. Because when it comes to like paying attention, I would have never put it together in my head that that is some sort of, well, it is a service. It's a service that you pay for in one way or another. And usually when we use the term you pay for, that is more of a negative connotation, but let's make it a positive one.
I'm very intentional about what I pay
Yeah, you are.
attention to. And here's why. You and I and everybody listening, we only have one thing. And I think of it like as a, some alien show, Cyclops, right? Who's got a thing on his head and the beam of Superman, X-ray vision or whatever. You have a beam, and it's called your TAL beam. TAL, and that stands for time, attention, and love. Or you can use intent or intensity or focus or whatever. But time is how long you're paying attention. Attention is to what degree you're paying attention. Like, are you multitasking? You've got 30% of my attention because the other 2/3 is on my stuff I'm cooking on the stove. And the intensity or the love is the love or the meaning or the value that you put into something. So an easy way to illustrate that is if you're talking to somebody, there's going to be people that you talk to and you're like, you can't wait for them to shut up and you wish that was yesterday because whatever it is they got to say, you couldn't care less. But the time still goes by. On the other hand, there's people that you can't wait to talk to, and you're just hanging on the words. Every word and every sense and focus is like tuned into that place. So it's the same time, but the value of the interaction when you paid attention is exponentially higher because you were there, like all in with your whole ears and spirit and love and the whole thing. And so that's the only thing we have, because wherever we shine our TAL beam, that grows. And whatever you give your attention to, believe me, you're giving it away because the time element of that's gone forever. And so deciding intentionally what you're going to pay attention to me, is a big deal.
Do you know what really kind of stood out for me in that is when you said when not you personally, when you as a person are listening to somebody else, and it can be a situation where you want them to stop talking or you're hanging on every word. How much of that do you think is our participation in it?
100%. Like, I have already judged that person valueless if I'm not paying attention. I'm giving them the time but not paying attention. And that will be because of other interactions or something that happened before, or it could be because I'm so distracted that I cannot bring my focus. The event that we talked about is we had to put one of our cats down this morning unexpectedly, and it was 5 a.m, and she was foamy at the mouth, and so we jumped in the car and went to 24-hour emergency vet hospital. And so having a conversation, particularly with Joy, during those hours, she wouldn't give you any attention, even if she turned and looked at you, because her soul, her love, the love piece of that was somewhere else. And so, sometimes there's things that we, that happen that take our attention, and we allow that. And so it's not always a judgment that that person's not worth listening to, I'm going to turn me off. But that does happen sometimes when we've had other experiences. But it really is the time, attention, and love thing together, the three elements of your life force, as it were. Because wherever you shine that, it grows.
You saying that made me reflect on how everybody is a mirror of everybody else. So we can actually create somebody to be somebody that we want to listen to intently just by our paying attention to them.
I have a saying in my PTAC. Those of you that know me very well know I have a personal truth document that is scripture and fire starting and all that stuff. One of the things in there is I study, learn, and get coached from every day. Every day I draw breath, I study, learn, and get coached from, and then I list some sources. One of them is each person in my path, regardless of their standing, stature, or status. And I define that as rich or poor, old or young, famous or unknown. And I do that on purpose so that everything I read, every email I choose to open, and that's not all of them, and every conversation I choose to give my time element to, I look for something. And because I'm looking for something, either a place to love or a place to learn or whatever, I find cool stuff all over the place. And I have pages and pages of notes in the note app of my phone, which I review on a regular basis because I heard something that was so precious and valuable, or a different view, or a powerful experience that they had that reminded me or something. And so you can find what you look for, and what you said is absolutely true. You can create anyone, because, and it's not hard to understand why. That person, I don't care what you think of them or what they look like, they're a child of God. They have divine DNA, and that's a fact, and there's not jack you can do about that. So you can choose to ignore them, or you can choose to say, what can I find here? What can I love? What can I lift? What can I learn?
That is such, we were talking before we started recording about how you live in peace. And I was just going to say that's such a peaceful way to be with others.
It's so much fun because I'm not making it up. I learn. I get coached
Yeah.
by every breath that someone takes because, and here's the foundation of that. We live in what I call a B deep, and that's a straitjacket. And it constrains our opportunities and possibilities, and it's an acronym, BDEEP, beliefs, definitions, experiences, expectations, and perceptions. And those 5 things form a limit, a boundary, a wall, a straitjacket beyond which we do not believe we can progress. When you realize that's not true, and you realize all it is a set of lenses that you have that are shaped by your previous stuff, and that's fine. Everybody's got them. The secret is the day I realized everybody else's lenses are just as good as mine, and they can't see the world any other way except through their lenses because they're the only ones they've got. When I realized that and chose to believe that and accept that as truth, then I began to see all kinds of ways to learn and to love everybody because they've had this set of things that's given them a particular set of lenses. And I'm like, wow, I wonder what color the world is through those lenses.
Yeah. I think for me personally, and I don't know if you've found this, is that as I go further along the path of grace and truth and being and all of the fuzzy warm things, but the things that are inherent in us that get blocked out a lot as we're growing up by society, you start to be able to see that in other people that, oh, this looks like, what am I trying to say? So you and I were speaking about a coworker that I have beforehand who is just
I
really
was
kind of
thinking the same
unpleasant.
thing. I was thinking that
And
same example. Yeah.
not a lot of people really want much to do with him. And I'm like, I'm great with him, and I'm going to tell you jokes, and I'm going to make you laugh, and I'm going to annoy you because that's the beautiful part of life that you're not participating in from my vision, from what I can see, at least when we're here at work. And it's such a it's such a beautiful thing to be able to spread that to people, even if it like bounces off of them. You're still like, I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna make a difference with you, not for me, but for you, because I've been where you are, and I see where I'm at now, and I'd rather live on this side of it. I'd rather live in the peace and the joy and the happiness,
And the
and I want you
foundation
to
for that,
too.
I'm sorry, go ahead, finish.
No. I was just saying, and you want that for other people too.
The foundation of that wanting is the fact that you love him. You love this grumpy ass coworker because you said so, and he can't do anything about that. He can't refuse it, he can't deny it, he can ignore it, and that's not on you. And so when we make a choice to value somebody as we value ourselves and recognize that their lens is as good as ours, in fact, if we'd had their experiences, we'd probably be wearing that color lens. So if you choose to just live into that place, then it's easy to love people. And you know what's fun? They can't do a thing about it.
The thing that have told him a couple of times, and I'm like, the more annoyed you get by me, the more I'm gonna love you, you know?
And
And
that's
he's just like, why? Because that's just how I am, you know? I used to be like him. I can see so much of who I used to be in him, and I'm like, it's so much better on this side. Like, come. But nobody really, because he pushes people away
mhm.
because that's what he that's what he feels that he wants, is he wants to be left alone. And I'm like, but do you, or is that just what you're conditioned to? Yeah.
Well, mostly we have no idea. Maybe rejection, maybe prior
Hmm.
stories, maybe a
Hmm.
boatload of stuff, and we may never know all the details of that. But that doesn't, and obviously doesn't in real life, prevent you from loving him and
No.
giving him things and doing stuff just because you can. And
Yeah.
so you're paying attention to your own behavior, thinking, being, energy around him. And you're choosing with your own paying attention. I'm going to pay attention to this person's energy, to their being, to their situation, and that kind of stuff. And the beautiful thing about that is each person gets to do that for themselves, and nobody can take that determination, that sovereignty, that privilege away from you.
Yeah. It's for me, it's opened up and become like a freedom in a way that I couldn't have imagined before being in that. It's
Freedom is I'm sorry, you were
no. Go ahead.
I was going to say freedom is an interesting thought because when I talk to people about having declarations or a way I create myself and all that stuff, people sometimes will say, well, I like to be more spontaneous and not this, not that. And the language and the description is as if that were some kind of a prison or restriction or limitation. And I agree with what you just said. I find my own experience is that that is the most complete freedom I have ever enjoyed, because I realize and live into the truth that I own my TAL, time, attention, and love beam. I own my attention, and I can pay it wherever I want. And all the declarations and daily prep does is remind me where and how I've chosen to pay that attention.
Yeah. I think for me, the freedom comes from I didn't know that it was only, I mean, I'm in my late 40s, and it's only been the last 3 years or so that I even could wrap my head around the fact that I had a choice to not be who I was, the way that I had taught, all the identities that other people had thrown on me that I had held on to. Somebody said you're lazy, and then I held on to that for 40 years and was like, I'm lazy. I didn't know that I could choose to be any other way. And that for me opened up a world of freedom.
I've got a
It's-
client.
yeah, keep going.
I got a client who thinks and says he's very successful, and we've been coaching together for many years. But one of the things he said in this whole process that you've just described is, I used to think that everything about work had to be grindy. And if I wasn't grinding with all of the associated R that implies, I wasn't doing enough, or it wasn't done right, or something like that. And just like you, he's come to the place where he realizes now, and he's still working on doing it, that he has permission to have fun.
Yeah. This coworker, it drives him crazy when people are talking or laughing or joking. And I'm like, it's okay. We're allowed to. We're allowed to. You don't have to. It's your choice, but I'm gonna do that because if people have heard your story, they know that that's a similar way that you used to live as well when it came to work. And again, that's how I used to be. Work was work, and it was hard, and it was difficult, and it wasn't supposed to, you couldn't bring fun into the workplace. And once you realize that you can bring whatever you want to, you get to choose your perspective no matter where you are. So if you choose that perspective that work is fun, if you choose the perspective that work is hard, if you choose the perspective that work has to be grinding, it's what it is. And it won't be that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every day that you're there, you're going to have issues. You're going to have fires that come up that you have to put out, depending on what your job is. But that's what it can be generally. Yeah.
So I want to go back a minute and we'll go to something you said about me
Sure.
living in peace. I want to take that entire string of sentences you just said. You have a story, my old client, your friend, has a story that work has to be grindy and all the rest of that. And all the places that you said work, if a person puts in the word life, life has to be grindy. Life has to be challenging. Life has to be hard. Life has to be no fun. Life has to this and all of that. And you adopt and fully realize what you just said. You gave the formula for what we were talking about, I think maybe before we started recording, which is how do you get to a place of peace?
Mm-hmm.
Where everything is peaceful all day, no matter what happens. And it depends on two things. Your attitude going into it, which is, this is all going to be fun no matter what, and I'll figure out how. And your story, which says, work or fun, life has to be grindy, hard. Death has to be hard. Somebody being sick has to be hard. Bankruptcy has to be hard. No, it actually doesn't. I was on a call the other day with a lady who said, and it was in the context of the 25 or so people that were in that little mastermind, that she had just filed for bankruptcy. And, I talked about all the shame that's associated with that normally and everything else. And then went on to say that she's chosen in the process to have it be liberation and how light she felt and all of this stuff. And it's just another example. So if you find yourself struggling, me, you, any of us, with the feeling something's unfair or negative, all that's happened is you've said the words, has to be unfair, has to be negative. Life, work, death, illness, divorce. Think of the worst possible thing. You have a story that has to be hard, ugly, or bad, and it doesn't. And that might be hard doctrine or it might be easy doctrine. But the truth is, you are sovereign and you get to choose.
Mm-hmm. I think what the words that came up for me was that it's so simple and it's not always easy. But it's very simple. I mean, it's 4, 5 words. This is this. This has to be this. Take a word out, replace it with something else. You know, this can be
I,
fun. This can be hard. This can be difficult. This can be joyous. This simple, but to live into that, it can be challenging. But that's what we're here to do.
well, it's our habits. And so the framework I use to help people learn to do that is 3 words: notice and choose. Notice and
Mm-hmm.
choose. Notice and choose. When I teach that, I usually do this dramatic introduction. I say, I'm going to give you a $1 billion secret. And then everybody's ears perk up. You want a $1 billion secret? Yeah. Okay, good. I'll tell you what it is. Notice and choose. Because if you do that, and that means some trigger has happened, some event that you have been socialized or believed in the past for 1, 2, 5, 10, 50 years, I don't care, was a certain way, that's fine. And you have the reaction, the neurochemistry and all the crap happens to you that's associated with that. Step 1 is just notice.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking, there I am thinking that. And there's no negativity, there's no judgment, there's no dance. It's just notice. Oh, crap, I'm doing that. Wow, that's my habit. I have always believed that. Notice, that's just noticing. And if you just take the 10 seconds to notice and choose, and then ask the really simple question, is that what I want to do? Is that what I want to do? And if you say, well, duh, of course I don't want to do that. Okay, cool. What else could I do? What could I think? What might somebody else think? What might my favorite superhero or favorite living person or dead person think? Like, what would they do in this situation? Well, they might do this. Okay, cool. Let me try that. And as long as we can notice and choose and not have a bunch of judgment around the initial habits are whatever they are. Who cares? That's called
Right.
climbing the mountain, right?
Right. Right. I had this while you were saying your favorite person or superhero. I had this image pop into my head of people walking around with these wristbands that, the WWJD, what would Jesus do? Like WWKD, like, well, what would Kellan do? Like, what would Superman do? What would, just pick and choose, pick and choose. That's so, again, so simple, very simple. If you drive down to the bedrock of it, it's very simple and it's beautiful. It can be beautiful.
So write that on your forehead, not you, but all your listeners. Notice and choose. Notice and choose. I've got a client who every time not every time, lots of times he'll say, you know what, I'm getting really good with notice and choose. I mean, that's what he'll talk about. And then give me some examples of where something happened, some situation, doesn't matter, business, home, whatever. And he's able to describe what would have been yesterday, last week, last year, his default assumption, reaction, belief, lens. Can't find my glasses. Lenses. And then he'll say, I took a second, I chose to do something else. And that power, the truth of that power, that's the foundation of all growth. It's the foundation of your being, your work on being. You say, I'm going to be, I am love, I am forgiveness, I am a light, and invite you home to yourself. Like whatever it is, it doesn't matter if you are instantly that. Notice and choose, notice and choose.
Love it. Love it. Kellan, we are out of time, but I always love talking to you. It's so entertaining. It's so enlightening. And I appreciate you coming back on the show. Thank you so much for your time.
You're delightfully welcome, and I'm grateful for you putting this together, and for who you are as you show up to love and serve people, especially Mr. Used to be grumpy coworker.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. So, everyone, thank you for tuning in today. Again, go to the TUC podcast, the Ultimate Coach Podcast. At the top, type in Kellan Fluckiger. The name will be in the show notes, and you will be able to listen to more of his inspiration, his thoughts, his knowledge, and his experiences. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.